four temperaments is a proto-psychological theory that suggests that there are four fundamental personality types: sanguine, choleric, melancholic, and phlegmatic. Most formulations include the possibility of mixtures of the types. The Greek physician Hippocrates incorporated the four temperaments into his medical theories as part of the ancient medical concept of humorism, that four bodily fluids affect human personality traits and behaviors. Later discoveries in biochemistry have led modern medicine science to reject the theory of the four temperaments, although some personality type systems of varying scientific acceptance continue to use four or more categories of a similar nature. History and development. Temperament theory has its roots in the ancient four humors theory. It may have origins in ancient Egypt or Mesopotamia, but it was the Greek physician Hippocrates who developed it into a medical theory. He believed certain human moods, emotions and behaviors were caused by an excess or lack of body fluids, blood, yellow bile, black bile, and phlegm. Next, Galen developed the first typology of temperament in his dissertation De Temperamentis, and searched for physiological reasons for different behaviors in humans. He classified them as hot, cold and dry, wet, taken from the four elements. There could also be balance between the qualities, yielding a total of 9 temperaments. The word temperament itself comes from Latin temperare, to mix. In the ideal personality, the complementary characteristics of warm, cool and dry, moist were exquisitely balanced. In 4 less ideal types, one of the 4 qualities was dominant over all the others. In the remaining 4 types, one pair of qualities dominated the complementary pair. For example, warm and moist dominated cool and dry. These latter 4 were the temperamental categories Galen named sanguine, choleric, melancholic, and phlegmatic after the bodily humors, respectively. Each was the result of an excess of one of the humors that produced, in turn, the imbalance in paired qualities. In his Canon of Medicine, Persian polymath Avicenna extended the theory of temperaments to encompass emotional aspects, mental capacity, moral attitudes, self-awareness, movements and dreams. Nicholas Culper described the humors as acting as governing principles in bodily health, with astrological correspondences, and explained their influence upon physiognomy and personality. Culper proposed that, while some people had a single temperament, others had an admixture of 2, a primary and secondary temperament. Immanuel Kant, Rudolf Steiner, Alfred Adler, Erika Dix, Eduard Spranger, Ernst Kretschmer, and Erich Fromm all theorized on the 4 temperaments and greatly shaped our modern theories of temperament. Hans Eysenck was one of the first psychologists to analyze personality differences using a psychostatistical method, and his research led him to believe that temperament is biologically based. The factors he proposed in his book Dimensions of Personality were neuroticism, which was the tendency to experience negative emotions, and the second was extroversion, which was the tendency to enjoy positive events, especially social ones. By pairing the 2 dimensions, Eysenck noted how the results were similar to the 4 ancient temperaments. Other researchers developed similar systems, many of which did not use the ancient temperament names, and several paired extroversion with a different factor, which would determine relationship task orientation. Examples are disc assessment, social styles, and a theory that adds a 5th temperament. One of the most popular today is the Chiesi temperament sorter, whose 4 temperaments were based largely on the Greek gods Apollo, Dionysus, Epimetheus and Prometheus, and were mapped to the 16 types of the Myers-Briggs type indicator. They were renamed as artisan, guardian, idealist, and rational. Rather than using extroversion and introversion and task people focus, like other theories, KTS mapped the temperaments to sensing and intuition with a new pair category, cooperative and pragmatic. When role informative and role directive, and finally EI are factored in, you attain the 16 types. Finally, the interaction styles of Linda V. Behrens combines directing and informing with EI to form another group of styles, which greatly resemble the ancient temperaments, and these are mapped together with the Chiesi temperaments onto the 16 types. Modern medical science has rejected the theories of the 4 temperaments, though their use persists as a metaphor within certain psychological fields. The four temperament types. Each of the four types of humors corresponded in ancient times to a different personality type. These were associated with the domination of various biological functions. Lievegode suggested that the temperaments come to clearest manifestation in childhood, between approximately 6 and 14 years of age, after which they become subordinate factors in personality. Sanguine. The sanguine temperament is traditionally associated with air. People with this temperament tend to be playful, lively, sociable, carefree, talkative, and pleasure-seeking. They may be warm-hearted and optimistic. They can make new friends easily, be imaginative and artistic, and often have many ideas. They can be flighty and changeable. Thus sanguine personalities may struggle with following tasks all the way through and be chronically late or forgetful. Pedagogically, they can be best reached through awakening their love for a subject and admiration of people. Choleric. The choleric temperament is traditionally associated with fire. People with this temperament tend to be egocentric and extroverted. They may be excitable, impulsive, and restless, with reserves of aggression, energy, and/or passion, and try to instill it in others. They tend to be task-oriented people and are focused on getting a job done efficiently. Their motto is usually "do it now." They can be ambitious, strong-willed and like to be in charge. They can show leadership, are good at planning, and are often practical and solution-oriented. They appreciate receiving respect and esteem for their work. Pedagogically, they can be best reached through mutual respect and appropriate challenges that recognize their capacities. Melancholic. The melancholic temperament is traditionally associated with the element of earth. People with this temperament may appear serious, introverted, cautious or even suspicious. They can become preoccupied with the tragedy and cruelty in the world and are susceptible to depression and moodiness. They may be focused and conscientious. They often prefer to do things themselves, both to meet their own standards and because they are not inherently sociable. Pedagogically, they can be best met by awakening their sympathy for others and the suffering of the world. Phlegmatic. The phlegmatic temperament is traditionally associated with water. People with this temperament may be inward and private, thoughtful, reasonable, calm, patient, caring, and tolerant. They tend to have a rich inner life, seek a quiet, peaceful atmosphere, and be content with themselves. They tend to be steadfast, consistent in their habits, and thus steady and faithful friends. Pedagogically, their interest is often awakened by experiencing others' interest in a subject. People of this temperament may appear somewhat ponderous or clumsy. Their speech tends to be slow or appear hesitant. Decline in popularity. When the concept of the temperaments was on the wane, many critics dropped the phlegmatic, or defined it purely negatively, such as the German philosopher Immanuel Kant, as the absence of temperament. In the five temperaments theory, the classical phlegmatic temperament is in fact deemed to be a neutral temperament, whereas the relationship-oriented introvert position traditionally held by the phlegmatic is declared to be a new fifth temperament. Gary Smalley has renamed these classifications into a more modern and relatable format based on commonly known animals. These he lists as the otters, lions, golden retrievers, and beavers. Contemporary writings, in Waldorf Education and Anthroposophy, the temperaments are used to help understand personality. They are seen as avenues into teaching. As each child is considered to possess a unique blend of the four, they can be utilized to individualize the methods used with individual children and establishing a class balance, as well as to help with discipline. Christian writer Tim LaHaye has attempted to repopularize the ancient temperaments through his books. Psychologist and writer Florence Latour describes the four personality types in her book Personality Plus. See also two-factor models of personality. Cultural references. In 1946 George Balanchine choreographed a ballet he titled The Four Temperaments, set to music he commissioned from Paul Hindemith. The music, and thus the ballet, is in 5 parts, a theme and 4 variations titled Melancholic, Sanguine, Phlegmatic, and Choleric. A per Mile Zola consciously employed the 4 temperaments in Thorese Rakin. The Danish composer Carl Nielsen's Symphony No. 2, 1901-02, Op. 16 entitled The Four Temperaments is structured upon the four temperaments. See also, Fundamental Interpersonal Relations Orientation, Enneagram of Personality, Table of Similar Systems of Comparison of Temperaments, Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, Keirsey Temperament Sorter, Personality Plus, 5 Temperaments, References. External links, Four Temperaments Test, Personality Test. Arica, Noga. Passions and Tempers, A History of the Humors, Hellman, Par Currency IV. Discovering Our Potential, An Introduction to Character Types, in our Time episode on the four humors in MP3 format, 45 minutes, Rudolf Steiner. The Four Temperaments, John T. Cocaris, Psy.D. Description of the four primary temperaments at fourtemperament.com, descriptions of the temperament blends.